Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. This morning we are looking at two rather new whiskey expressions or brands. First we have Wild Turkey Bourbon. Now you say that's not new, that's old, that goes back to 1940. Well, Wild Turkey 81, and it got renamed, I think, in 2016 to Wild Turkey Bourbon, was introduced in 2011, 81 proof bourbon, okay? Aged 6 to 8 years. I saw a video from the company where the distillery master said it's about 7 years, 6 to 8, okay, 7 years, give or take a little month or so, a few months or so. Enjoy it straight or with a mixer. Okay, now it's mainly designed as a mixing whiskey, but you can have it straight. And they also said on the website it was designed to appeal to women who they did not find cared for the high proof whiskeys too much. They were more of the 80 proof people, and I am that way too. I prefer 80 proof whiskeys. I don't, when it gets above 90 proof, it starts to become a turnoff to me. Tyler Mansell says, I am here 6 a.m. Well, I was going to start at the top of the hour, Tyler, instead of the quarter after. But, you know, I wanted to watch the local news this morning. So, and it'll probably be the same case tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning will be a quick one because I'm going to have to stop at the bottom of the hour. They were mainly talking about Tom Benson, the owner of the Saints, the New Orleans Saints football team, the New Orleans Pelicans NBA basketball team, and Dixie Brewing Company. He died this week, and at 90 years old, there's a bunch of talk about that. All right. So Speckled Tail is the competitor. It was introduced in 2017, so it's a very new version. $10.79 for this bottle. And for Wild Turkey, if you get a 750, it's about 18 bucks. Okay, here. I don't know about your area, but here. So if you're paying over $7 more per bottle, you would expect a much better product. But is that going to be the case? I don't know. Speckled Tail has been doing very well in competition. Haven't gotten them correct all the time, but been trying. I got it mixed up with Virginia Tavern. I mean, I keep saying that, Kentucky Tavern. There is a Virginia Tavern whiskey, but I don't think it's sold in Louisiana. But Kentucky Tavern is at Dorgnac's, at least. Dorgnac sells a lot of stuff that nobody else sells. Like Inverhouse Scotch, J.W. Dance Scotch. They sell Tom Moore straight bourbon, and Kentucky Tavern, and so on and so on. If you ever want to buy whiskey or gin or wine, I would highly recommend Dorgnac's. If you want to buy beer, I would highly discourage Dorgnac's. Great selection, but they're notorious for not checking dates. So, and their beer prices aren't that good. You know, the prices are not good. So I usually go to Martin Wine Cellar. Not to say that they check dates either. I just think they have more turnover in their beer. Their wine, yeah, it rivals Dorgnac's. Their liquor, it does not match up to Dorgnac's. The prices tend to be a little higher too. So it's all about shopping. You know, it's not one store here that's cheaper with everything. You just got to look around. All right. The Speckled Tail, I thought that was Speckled Tail. The Speckled Tail is darker. It's like chestnut or copper amber, and this is a gold amber, okay? So even though the Speckled tail is only, and they're both 80 proof. Wild Turkey from Kentucky, Speckled tail from Florida, at least bottled in Florida. Even though the Speckled tail is aged only 4 years and the Wild Turkey is aged 7, the Speckled tail is still darker. Now you might assume that they add coloring. No, they do not add coloring because that is allowed, but it has to be disclosed with whiskey. There is no disclosure on the label talking about added coloring or flavoring. Okay? For an American whiskey, that can be done. But it has to be disclosed. For bourbon, it cannot be done. You can add coloring to bourbon, but then it cannot be called a bourbon. Okay? And Wild Turkey bourbon is a straight Kentucky bourbon. Okay? Aged in new oak barrels, whereas Speckled tail is aged in used barrels, and that's why it is disqualified as bourbon. It's all pure whiskey. It's not mixed with unaged grain, corn liquor, corn whiskey, grain neutral spirits. It's not mixed with that. It's very similar to Early Times, except Early Times is aged 3 years, and Speckled tail is aged at least 4, so there's a difference there. But Early Times is cheaper by about $1.85, so you got to look at that. A wreck already, 6:21 a.m. Anytime you hear the sirens, it's almost always a wreck. I mean, occasionally it's somebody running from the law enforcement, but that's not too common. John and Neely, good morning, Ron. Good morning, John and Neely. John and Neely in Georgia tried to find Speckled tail, but he was not able to. He tried to find 100 Pipers Scotch, and he couldn't find it. I don't know how to find out how you can get 100 Pipers because it's made by a company called, not Campari. Campari is who makes Wild Turkey, that Italian company. It's Pernod Ricard, the French company, Pernod-Ricard. They own 100 Pipers. Now, notice some places it's sold as Seagram's 100 Pipers because Pernod Ricard bought the Seagram's gin line and 100 Pipers from Seagram's when they imploded in 2000. Like Toys R Us, you know how Toys R Us has all this debt but not a whole lot of revenue to match the debt? That was the problem with Seagram's. They had a big debt load and a lot of revenue. They were one of the biggest distilling companies in the world, but the revenue there wasn't enough revenue to make the payments. And guess what happens when you can't pay your note? Your property gets seized, right? Okay. And these companies, there are lessons. That's a cautionary tale. Seagram's is a cautionary tale of don't do it this way. You make liquor, make liquor. You don't need to buy you don't need to buy Universal Studios. You don't need to buy MCA Records. You don't need to buy a bunch of various magazine companies to the point where distilling is a minority part of your business. And it was crazy. It's like Schlitz, Do everything Schlitz does except for these following things, like tamper with your product to where it's got slime in the beer by 1976. Don't do that. Don't cut corners. They cut corners. Schlitz is now not even a company. It's just a brand owned by Pabst. You can learn lessons. Canada dry alcohol in my province, Canada is expensive compared to the United States. I pay like $28 for a 12-pack of Heineken. That's outrageous because it's about $16 here, maybe $15. I know, I feel bad for Canada. They pay all these high prices, All right, taste test. Oh, this one is heavy corn in my nose. It smells like corn grits. Woo! Must be wild turkey. Oh, you get sweet dried flowers, you know, the nectar type thing, and you get caramel or sugar or whatever that is, and charcoal, but it's a lot of corn. That's why I'm so glad this is the last bourbon. The last bourbon for a long, long time. I've got a huge array of Canadian whiskey, American blended whiskey, and Scotch. A huge array, my friends. And it'll take me years to get through this. Now I'm 49 years old. So the next time I do bourbon, I might be saying, look, I turned 60. God willing, if I live that long, right? So, but I won't mind, because a bourbon is really starting to get on my case as far as me not liking it. Like, I guess we eat so much corn down here. And I grew up eating white hominy grits. Although the bourbon is probably yellow corn grits. But it just starts to grate on you after a while. It's like you're drinking grits. And it's too, other people just love bourbon, and I'm not making fun of them. That's all they drink. I was talking to Sonia, lady friend of mine, and she said, Sonia said, oh, I have some bourbon. I said, what bourbon do you have? She told me this Thursday. I have Maker's Mark and Woodford Reserve. I said, oh yeah, I haven't had either one of those. Now, she's a big bourbon. Incorrect. She's not a big drinker at all. But if she's going to make a mint julep, something like that, she's going to use bourbon, okay? That's what I mean to say. And then somebody else told me, bourbon, that's a woman's drink. I said, what? Are you crazy? He told me this at work. He's like, forget bourbon. That's a woman's drink. I said, you sure say some insane stuff. Nazmic Nazik says, William Kepley, please come back for the life of me. You know, William Kepley makes appearances on Tyler's channel, on Eric Fraunfelter, Thomas Meadow 75, Massachusetts Beer Reviews channel, and my channel. But most of the time, we don't hear from William. William is aloof. William is a mysterious person. So if he shows up, it's a treat. But normally, he isn't going to show up. William is in the shadows of the beer world and the liquor world. Okay. Standing in the shadows. All right. Now, this one is a lot of char, but not so much corn. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because after all, the speckled tail is mostly corn. So why doesn't it have that heavy corn grit aroma? I don't know. Now, you would think, oh, there it's coming out. But it's more sweetness. You would think, you know, like the wild turkey would be way better, right? Like wild turkey, man, it's wild turkey. That's some obscure brand speckled tail that you can find at Walmart. And it's coming from some obscure company in Florida, Caribbean Distillers. Caribbean, right? Like Florida's in the Caribbean? No. But they make a lot of rum, so blah, blah, blah. Okay. They ought to call it Peninsular Distillers or something. Oh, well. Let's go with the taste test. So in the aroma, I think this is wild turkey and that's speckled tail, but I really don't know. Let's go with the taste. Cheers. Like my LSU shirt. They won the baseball game last night. They beat Missouri. Southeastern Louisiana beat Lamar. And we won't talk about Tulane and UNO And we won't mention the fact that they both lost. We're not going to bring that up. Thank you. University of New Orleans and Tulane. We might mention later on. Later on, I might mention the University of Maryland at Baltimore County. Maryland, Baltimore County beat the #1 team in the United States in basketball, Virginia, who had, what, 2 losses the whole year. It was primed to win the national championship in basketball. The #1 seed was beaten by the lowly 16th seed. And not barely beaten by 20 points. Beat down like a dog, like a Virginian Cavalier dog. They slapped them around the court like they were nothing. Like they were deserving of nothing, and they deserve no respect. Those retrievers, a retriever is a dog. A Cavalier is a dignified English warrior who fights for the king, the Stuart throne, with long hair and a beard like mine, but even longer. But that dog ripped the sword out of his hand and broke it in half and threw it back at him with no respect. But I'm not bringing that up. I'll just say if I brought it up later, I will talk about it. But thankfully, I'm not going to. Tastes like bourbon, you know what I mean? This one tastes like Tennessee whiskey. Oh, you know what I mean? Jack Daniels. Oh, a lot of char. It is kind of corn forward too. But Jack Daniels has that kind of, we don't want to say the word harsh. I would never dream or even consider or even entertain the idea of calling Jack Daniels harsh. Not after we got well corrected on the tour last year by the tour guide. He stopped us cold in our tracks. We don't say harsh. We say bold. And the people on the tour kind of laughed and said, okay, Jack Daniels isn't harsh, you fool. It's bold. And this stuff's not, I can't say that word. It's not, it's bold. All right. See, some people don't drink hurricane high gravity malt liquor, which Anheuser-Busch describes as a high-end malt liquor, you know, a high-end malt liquor. It's harsh. Now, come on. Just look at the Anheuser-Busch website. It does not say the word harsh anywhere. It says it's bold. All right. Well, Canada Dry Hand said, you ever had Crown Royal? Yes, once. And I did not video review it. I don't think. But I got some from the Knights of Columbus, you know, like they buy these big jugs of it, these big glass jugs, you know, and then during bingo, when we're working bingo, they're drinking it, you know, they're drinking whatever bourbon or whiskey they have available. And I'll just drink like Bud Light or Coors Light or Miller Light. Now they started bringing regular Budweiser in, so I've kind of gravitated towards that. But then I said, well, you know, they're all drinking it all night, so I'll get a little glass, a cup. I got a plastic cup full, and I brought it home, and then I poured it in a glass and tried it. And it was really good. So I was very pleased with my first drinking of Canada Royal. Crown Royal. Yeah, I mean, I could really get into that. So the plan is to get into and try all of those, you know, eventually. But we'll all be old when I do that. I know some people in St. James Parish, that's all they buy is Crown Royal. A man and his wife, well, they have children, but they don't drink, you know, their children. But the man and his wife, and they must have dozens and dozens and dozens of bottles of Crown Royal. And they try to get every type made, and they have a collection of it. And they like, we'll put that on Facebook, a photo. I was like, that is incredible, you know. So there's a lot of choices. Yeah, it was another Seagram's brand that got cast off and bought up by Diageo, you know, the people that make Guinness. So it was Seagram's Crown Royal until 18 years ago. It was created by Seagram's in 1939 to honor the visit of King George VI and Queen Elizabeth to Canada. A royal visit. And so they made Crown Royal with the, you know, the purple bag, you know, the color, royal color. Just like this Crown Lager in Australia, which is kind of like a fancy lager beer. And it was created in honor of their daughter, who became Queen Elizabeth II. Their daughter visited Canada, Australia in the 1950s, and so they made Crown Lager in her honor. Anyway, okay, so who's the winner? I guess they both taste really good, so it's a tie in that case. This is a tie. I mean, what's better, Speckled Tail or Wild Turkey? Oh no, it's a tie. Which means Speckled Tail wins because it's $8 cheaper per bottle. So when it's a tie, you shop price. That's what I do. You shop price. Now, if friends come to visit and they say Speckled Tail, I like good stuff like Wild Turkey. You can suggest that they go buy some. I notice at parties sometimes people will complain like, what is this? They'll drink it though. They ain't about to buy their own stuff. They'll just mooch off your stuff, but they'll complain about it while they're mooching. It's really bizarre, you know? Okay, why'd you buy Rallies? Rallies? Can I have some fries? It's like, didn't you just complain about Rallies? But now you want my fries. Okay, gotcha. See how that works. Not to mention that I don't recall you ever offering me any food, but okay. Someone doesn't finish the food, you know, you hate, some people are so wasteful, you know, they'll just waste. They'll buy like a Rally's meal and like they'll eat 3 fries and there's a whole pack. They're just going to throw them out. I never do that. I just can't. If I'll say, y'all want these fries? I mean, it's going to waste. And they'll eat them, you know. Why would you waste food like that? I just don't like when people try to raid your food and you're trying to eat. You're hungry, you know, and they want you to start sharing your meal and you haven't eaten yet. It's like, wait a minute. Let me eat my food. Then perhaps if there's some left over, then you can have it. But don't start scavenging and I haven't even begun to enjoy my lunch. You know, it's like you have money, go buy your own food. So it's sort of like a propriety, you know, have some propriety. But the wasting, I hate. You know, now you might say, you sound like a liberal. I am very liberal when it comes to that kind of stuff, like wasting food. I hate to see people do that. I can't stand litter, you know. I can't stand a litter bug, right? You know what I mean? Like, why can't you just wait till throw it in a trash can? But that's not really a liberal or conservative thing, is it? That's like decent or not decent. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative. If you like to litter and you throw cups out the window, then I don't have respect for you. I just look down on you and I will tell you to your face, you're a litter bug. I'm sorry. I confront people on it. I love Checkers as they're known around here. That's right. Checkers started in Florida and Rallies started somewhere else, and they had almost an identical menu and an almost identical business model. So they decided to merge and become Rallies/Checkers or Checkers/Rallies, since they basically were the same company anyway, as far as their production. Well, And no, I do not waste liquor or beer, except for this, like really bad ones. You know, obviously, if you're going to dump out food because it's it's going to make you sick, well, obviously, yeah, throw it out. But just to be wasteful, oh no, I can't stand it. All right. It is speckled tail. Yay! It is wild turkey. Yay, I got it right. All right. Well, it gives me a lot of confidence because I guessed it on aroma only, right? When I first started this, I sniffed it and I said, that's wild turkey, that's speckled tail. So I'm really getting used to speckled tail, and I'm starting to be able to tell it from the other one. So, okay. But it still wins because it's cheaper, right? So, what's next? Okay. Well, tonight we're planning to do the Venerable Foster's Australian for beer, made in Texas. I was talking to this friend for years, been having a friend for years, and he said the last time we did a joint hangout between Australia and the United States was when we did Witchwood's Hobgoblin. Jazz and Swilling Grog and myself. And I said, it's been too long. Oh, yes, let's do a hangout, they said. We talked about all the beers we could get. Nothing matched up except for Foster's. And they said, well, we don't even know if we can get Foster's, since it's not really drunk in Australia anymore, or drink in Australia. It's sort of like Old Milwaukee in America. You can find Old Milwaukee, but you're going to have to maybe drive to Milwaukee. You know what I mean? So they were looking around. Oh, they finally found Foster's. Swilling Grog found this huge jug bottle of Foster's. Bottle. We don't even get bottles in America anymore. And then Jazz said, I can't find it. Kept looking and looking. Finally, he found Foster's Classic. Oh, no. It's called Foster's Original. It's a 4% version like they make in Great Britain and Europe. He really wanted to get the 5% that we were going to drink. I don't think Swilling Grog found the 5%. But I said, well, that'd be an interesting counterpoint, you know, counterpoint. So it could be a lot of people tonight at 6 Central Time talking about Foster's beer. Okay, so next up we have, I believe it's against Old Crow. Hey, Old Crow versus Speckled Tail. I think I'll be able to tell those apart in a snap. And then we got Jim Beam. I don't think that'll be much of a challenge. I don't think. And then we got Jim Beam Choice, charcoal filtered, aged 5 years. That's a very special bourbon. Then Jack Daniel's Old Number 7, the black label. Yeah, that could be a challenge because Speckled Tail was made to mimic Jack Daniel's, so that could be, it would be fascinating if I get those mixed up. Ooh wee. And then Jack Daniel's Green Label, the number 7, not Old Number 7, Jack Daniel's number 7. I noticed that when I was at the distillery, and that's a myth, you know, that it's a dry county and you can't buy whiskey in that county, where Lynchburg, Tennessee. I get there and they got signs, beer on sale. I was like, beer? I thought it was a dry county. Well, liquor is illegal, whiskey. Oh, okay. Then I go to the Jack Daniel's distillery. There's a big gift shop with every type of Jack Daniel's you wanted to buy. I thought it was a dry county. Oh, well, they make an exception for the gift shop. Oh, okay. You don't have to pay to go in the gift shop. You just park and walk over there. So how's that a dry county? Anybody in the county can just go there and buy their liquor, right? So that's sort of like a marketing gimmick. Now, apparently, and this is even more of a joke, they're not selling the liquor. They're selling Jack Daniel's collectible bottles. And they're giving you complimentary liquor in the bottle. Well, of course, that's a legal fiction. It's not in a practical sense, is not a dry county. Only in a strict theoretical legal sense. And they had a fantastic gift shop, you know, like all the different types of Jack Daniels. One little display area, all the green bottles, green label. I said, whoa, look at that. But somebody brought me a bottle from Texas. Then the black label, old number 7. And then all these other variants, some I've never even heard of. Maybe you can only get them in Tennessee. I said, boy, this is something. And there were people from all over the world, Japan, Germany, Netherlands, you know, all these different languages at Jack Daniel's distillery. Oh, look, they want to buy everything. Isn't JD number 7 the normal one in Texas? Yeah, the green label, the number 7 is the typical Texas Jack Daniels. That's what people, when you say, let's go drink some Jack in Texas, it's the green label. But you can get the black label now. It's just not the common one. It's a little more expensive too. My father told me, yeah, well, he thought it was the green label. I said, what do you mean? Well, back in his drinking days, 1970s, that was the like common one, the green label here. I didn't know that because I was a child. And then that got pulled out from more and more states to where now it's only sold, I think, in 5 states. So, and there's rumor it's going to be discode. I don't believe it's going to be discontinued because that's their overflow. You understand? The green label is what they bottle when there's Jack Daniels that's not up to standard. In other words, there's something wrong with it. But I couldn't really tell them apart. They have a much more discerning nose than I do. But it is the overflow. So, you know, you can put a lot of overflow in Texas, right? I mean, Texas is like a whole other country. You're talking about over 20 million people. So it's not like, you know, they're going to be stuck with a lot of backstock when they could sell Jack Daniels in Texas. So, right. Reminds me of when I worked. This is Jared Crozier. He said, it reminds me of when I worked night shift and I wanted a beer and I got off at 4:30 a.m., but they wouldn't sell it legally here until 9 a.m. So they would sell me a paper bag for $2.50 and it came with a free beer. Right. See, there's ways to get around these ridiculous laws. And that's a good point you're making because regulations don't really work. Regulations are for people that don't understand reality. Like, if we outlaw a product, then people can't get it. Like heroin, see, it's against the law, so you can't buy it, right? Or cocaine, or methamphetamine, or certain types of weapons. So if you outlaw the weapon, then people can't get it. And that makes us safe from the bad effects of the product. But the people that say these things, they willfully don't understand the black market, the hidden hand, or they know better and they're just trying to fool you. Not to mention the unjust approach of saying that, well, since a teenager did bad with a product, one teenager did bad with a product in a state full of 18 million people, we're going to take away the right of every teenager to buy that product. Now, does that make sense? Now you say, oh, you don't care about safety. Let's take that logical or that dislogic. Let's take that. Let's use that concept and let's apply it in a different way. And let's see if it makes sense. And if those same people would go along with it. Okay, so one teenager misuses a product that hurts other people. Okay. So we got to make sure that none of that class of people, upper teens, 18 to 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, cannot get the product. We must make it illegal because since one teenager misused the product, we got to violate the right of every other teenager to get the product, to protect us. within this state. Okay, let's use that concept. Let's say one black person misuses a product. Or let's say multiple black people misuse a product. You say, well, we did a study of Miami and Overtown, Miami, and there was a lot of misuse of this product and hurting other people. If we're going to use the 18-year-old logic, why don't we pass a law that no black people of any age, because it's not just 18-year-olds, can purchase the product? I mean, after all, since one black person misused the product, wouldn't it be, if we're following that line of logic, right? We're following that line of logic. Wouldn't it make sense to make sure that no black people would be able to get a hold of the product? See the problem with that type of thinking? When you get past the emotion and you just use the cognitive approach, we got a big problem with it, right? And you can apply that to anybody, really. Now you say, but I'm using the emotional approach. Thinking doesn't matter in these cases. Intelligence is irrelevant. People were hurt. Don't you understand? Yes. I certainly understand. So let's use that same logic. People are hurt. We can use any category of humanity and say people are hurt. So let's violate everybody's right to have the product, because thinking shouldn't matter. It should all be emotion. They did the same thing in Germany. Well, many Jews do these terrible things, communism. Grasping capitalism. They're involved in drug dealing and prostitution. Some Jews, not all Jews. But since some do it, we were going to take away their rights. So that's the same sort of logic, you see. Now you might say, well, everybody knows a good teenager. We all know a good teenager who would be responsible with products. We all know that good teenager. But don't trick yourself. They're bad. Overall, they're bad. And these types of things are going to happen if they can purchase these products. And that's what the Germans said. We all know a good Jew. But don't fool yourself. So anyway, sorry to bring up a bunch of very logical points of logic, right? Talking about consumer products and human rights. All right, but there we go. Now, in the next installment, and it'll be a lot quicker tomorrow, we'll do the speckled tail versus old crow. That'll be interesting, I think. I'm really looking forward to it. I'd like to do it right now, but I don't think I will. I could, though. I ought to, huh? Then I would have to rush right now. Better watch it. All right. So thanks, folks, for watching this video production. And everybody take care. Have a great Saturday. Don't use too much logic. You'll start thinking too much. And if you think too much, you'll figure things out. And then you won't let your emotions rule you. But I think that's what we want in the modern world. We want our emotions to override our thinking capacity. Just kidding. Ha, ha, ha.